Now, effective 1st September, government will introduce a quarterly hedging as a measure to avoid huge debts accumulating from the subsidizing of price differentials on petroleum products. Now, what this means is that although there will be a price review of petroleum products on September 1st, the National Petroleum Authority, NPA, will not adjust prices upwards. This should come as good news for Ghanaians, as the price of crude oil will be pegged at a particular figure over a period of time, and any price fluctuation during the period of the hedging will not be pushed on the consumer. But is it really a prudent economic measure? Why hedge when it is the Ghanaian cedi that is falling against the dollar? Does this make a good policy sense? We'll find out right here on today's big story with me, Stephen Enti. Today's big story is brought to you in association with Nationwide PVC suppliers and fabricators of UPVC, high-grade UPVC windows and doors. Now, the Deputy Minister of Energy in charge of petroleum, Benjamin Dagadu, in an interview with the Daily Graphic, announced that government will introduce hedging at the next adjustment period, but there will be no increment at all. By hedging, the price of crude oil will be pegged at a particular figure over a period of time, and thus absorbing any price fluctuation during the period of the hedging without passing on to the consumer. But is this a wise move? Let's find out from the experts. Dr. Anthony Akotose, who is former finance minister, is joining us on the telephone line now to give us some perspective on it. We'll bring him on when we have him. The question we're asking is it prudent to hedge at this time? And what happens if the dollar goes higher, much higher than the cedi, and the petroleum price on the international market also drops? Will we be in a position to absorb these international price volatility? Good evening, sir. Dr. Anthony Akotose, if you're on now. Okay, my name is Stephen Enti. We'll take a break, and when we return, we'll get Dr. Akotose on the telephone and we'll continue with our discussion. Stay with us. Welcome back to today's big story. We're still trying to raise Dr. Anthony Akotose on the line, but we have Edward Bauer, who is Public Relations Officer of the Energy Ministry, joining us. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Now, I know the Deputy Minister has said a memo on the proposed implementation of hedging will be sent to Cabinet for approval before the end of next week. Is it a done deal? I mean, do you expect any setbacks from Cabinet, or we should just assume that this deal is sealed?
Thank you very much. First and foremost, I do not speak for Cabinet, and again, I would not be able to preempt what the decision of Cabinet will do.
That's fair.
Cabinet is made up of people of different backgrounds, with different expertise, who would evaluate the memorandum that will be presented by the ministry, and on the strength of that, make a decision that is good for the country. Great.
Now, that's fair. That's very fair. We've heard that from the Deputy Minister telling us of the decision to hedge. Now, what influenced this decision?
You will know that if you look at the petroleum pricing, there are a lot of factors that are the indicators that are looked at. One of the key indicators is the price of crude in the international market, and therefore our current issues in terms of export prices going up or going down, what have you, depending on what the indicators are, has been because of the volatility of what they call it, the price of international at the international market of crude oil. So on the top of that, it is the thinking of the ministry that, look, if we on quarterly basis hedge the price of crude oil, what it then means is at least we are very clear in our minds that we'll have some level of stability with the price of petroleum products at the export, and can then plan on the cost of energy for their various businesses and for their domestic activities.
Right.
So basically, that's the rationale behind it.
Right. I mean, this rationale, I mean, you're hedging against international price volatility, but the city is not doing too well. There have been times that the price of crude on the international market has been dropping and then has been rising. Those were the times that we would have expected that government would take the decision to hedge. So why hedge now?
You will also realize that, and I don't know whether you've also been a follower of the performance of the city, that over a period of time, if you look at the level of differential in terms of depreciation, it has not been that significant. And so our hope is that the managers of the economy would continue with the good work they are doing in terms of stabilizing the value of the city against the dollar, whilst we also look at ensuring that at least for the prices of the crude in the international market, we are able to ensure ourselves of the particular volatility. So this is a cocktail of solutions that we are looking to ensure that we have a constant price level in terms of our product.
Right. Mr. Bauer, I'll have you hold briefly. I'll have Yao Poko on the line. He has some different views to express. Good evening, Mr. Osei Poku. Energy expert.
Mr. Kojo Poku.
Mr. Kojo Poku, I beg your pardon. Sorry. Now, what's your response to all this decision? This decision to hedge, and you heard Bauer saying that mainly it is to hedge against international price volatility.
But then we don't have that. We don't have price volatility. The fluctuation in international price of crude oil is not that erratic. I don't know the data that they are looking at, or the Ministry of Energy is looking at, to think that there is that much volatility. We've had times in the past when there has been serious crisis in the Middle East, serious crisis in Iraq, and serious crisis in the major oil-producing countries where OPEC have had to call several meetings to basically stabilize the rise of the crude oil. We've not had that situation in recent months. The problem in Ghana is the city, and I was surprised that the gentleman on the phone, I heard him say that the city has stabilized. I don't know which city he's referring to, but the city has not stabilized. You know, so I'm surprised for the government to be looking at hedging of crude oil prices instead of actually trying to look at prudent measures to basically stabilize the currency, which is the cause of this problem.
So, Kojo Poku, let's get it right. So you are absolutely against the hedging. You think that the hedging
No, I'm not against hedging. You see, hedging has its benefits. Hedging has its benefits. You see, what hedging is, we are all aware of the benefits of hedging. If there is erratic pricing in the international market, let's say today the price of crude oil is $100, and by next month it can go as far up as, let's say, $110, or the following month it can go to $115. When there are erratic increases in the prices because there's volatility in the market, then when you hedge, there is a benefit, because what it is that you are basically placing a bet to say that, look, give it to me at $100. Whatever the price would be in the next 3 to 6 months, I still buy it at $100, be it low or be it high. There is a good part to that. But my view is that in the recent situation we have in the country, there isn't that erratic pricing of the crude oil. The volatility in the international crude oil does not exist. So if they are hedging because of the present situation we have in the country, international crude oil prices is not the problem. The problem is the city.
Right, Kojo Poku, we'll have you hold. I need a reaction from Bauer. Mr. Bauer, you're hearing Kojo Poku saying that the timing is not exactly right, because the prices of crude on the international market has been fairly stable for a while now. The problem is the city. The city is depreciating at such a rate that makes it quite questionable why government would take a decision to consider hedging now.
Two facts that must be stated clearly. First and foremost, I didn't indicate that the city has stabilized. I said if you look at the rate at which the depreciation goes, if you look at the differentials over the past month or two thereabout, you realize that the rate at which it's depreciating is going slower. That was the point I was making. I was asking that if you look at the differentials So it means that there's something that is being done right that is ensuring that at least the city gets stabilized. That is one aspect. The other aspect is also to look at the price, because at the end of the day, we realize that over the past few months, and let's say the beginning of the year up to now, the price of crude in itself has, the price of export, the price of our petroleum products at the export have always been changing every 2 weeks because of one factor or the other. I've given you that the factors are combined. We are looking at one, what they call the international crude price. We are looking at the dollar CD convertibility. But the truth of the matter still stands that once you are dealing with the CD depreciation, you must look at this. Now he talks about the fact that there's stability. We are just talking about today a situation where you have Islamic militants slaughtering somebody on a video. It just takes sometimes just the death of, or maybe a bad dream of another person in the Middle East or any other place, and changes prices in the international market.
So Mr. Bauer,
that's why we are indicating.
What happened?
Hold on, let me make my point. Make my point. That's why we are not hedging over a year. We are not hedging over 6 months.
You are hedging quarterly.
Quarterly. So at every quarter, we will review and see how it looks like. Does it make sense to continue? But this is still subject to the approval of cabinet.
Still subject to the approval of cabinet, but I mean, this is almost like a done deal. I mean, the earlier question that I asked.
Please, can I come in? Yes, you see, Mr. Bauer, hedging is a good idea. It's done in all over the place, and it's a good idea. Government can hedge. Nobody has a problem with that. But that hedging will not have any direct impact on the problems that we are facing today. And please, let me make a point. Can we please move away as individuals of this country? I'm a Ghanaian and we are all Ghanaians and we want the betterment of Ghana. When something is depreciating, the depreciating should be stopped. We should not take pride in the rate at which it is depreciated. It should not depreciate at all. It's somebody who say, oh, the rate of inflation has reduced. It shouldn't be at all. As a country, okay, look, the city is doing so bad to the naira, even to the naira. Right now, 10,000 naira is up to 20. It's 1 to 20. Now, we should not, and I would want a situation
that. Sorry to bargain. I don't intend doing that, but I just need to address it. You see, one thing you must realize that when you are pressing the depreciation of one currency over another, it is not a one-off event. It is not like a flash in the pan. It takes a process. You realize that the rate normally starts going down gradually, then finally you'll be able to arrest it. There's no way that you will say that tomorrow you just get a eureka. Yes, there's a stability.
Right.
That is not done. It's a process. So that is exactly what I'm talking about. If there is a decrease in the rate at which it depreciates, it is important to recognize and identify what are the things that are being done right to reduce that, and whether those things can be intensified. Right, that is the argument I'm just making.
Yeah, Mr. Bauer, I'll have you hold briefly. And Kojopoku, I know that you are bringing a very important angle to the discussion, but I am trying to get the former finance minister, Dr. Anthony Akutose, back onto the telephone. So we will have you hold briefly, and then we will come back to you again. So when we have all three views, we can articulate it better from that angle. So, Mr. Bauer, let me ask you a key question before I bring Dr. Anthony Akutose inside. Government owes 1.3 billion to the bulk oil distribution companies as a result of petroleum price differentials. Now tell me, in taking the decision to hedge quarterly, is this going to prevent such risks of high debts in the future?
First and foremost, this 1.3 billion figure you are giving us is what you think that the BDCs have said. In fact, it is because of the disagreement on as to how much really we owe in terms of forex losses
that you are hedging.
The Minister of Finance decided to engage the services of Ernst & Young, an auditing firm, to establish clearly what is the real value in terms of forex losses. That being said,
so you're saying that the 1.3 billion government is contesting that debt, really? You think you owe less?
I'm just telling you that we do not have a figure until Ernst & Young comes out with this figure.
Okay.
We've asked Ernst & Young to validate those things. And so it is as and when they do that, then we both know that all the parties, I'm talking of the banks, the government, and for that matter, the BDCs will know what the true value is. But of course, the issues of forex losses and other things still go back, and I admit, they still go back to the whole issue of trying to ensure that we have a stability in terms of the currency. That is something that is so. I was just indicating that if you look at how the managers of the economy are looking at that aspect, but for us, we are also looking at the international market in terms of the prices of food, and therefore we are trying to do our bit. Hopefully, I believe that looking at the things that are being done right in trying to stabilize the city, we would be able to finally have a way that people can learn in terms of their energy cost. How much do I spend over a period of 3 months, knowing that anytime I get to the pump station, I am going to get X product for say, Y price.
Right, Mr. Bauer.
Exactly what we are trying to do.
Mr. Bauer, we've heard you quite a lot. Let me hold you and get Dr. Anthony Akutose back into the picture. Doc, we are grateful that you could join us.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, government is making a decision to hedge petroleum products quarterly. Mr. Bauer is explaining that the reason, the essence of doing it quarterly is so that they can continue to review the decision as we go on. I mean, considering that international oil prices, crude prices on the international market has not exactly been fluctuating too much compared to previously. Are you surprised about this decision?
Yes, the reason I'm surprised is that I thought that even before 2012, they had told us that they were hedging on both the production and then the imports. So I'm surprised that the state government is taking a decision now. They have not given us an account of what the old hedging practice, the outcome of it. We don't know that. Did we lose? Did we gain? Well, I mean, nobody has mentioned anything. So to say that government has decided, I thought they already decided. They already decided during Dr. Dufour's regime, they talked about hedging on both the imports and then even our own production. And we have not had any account of the outcome of that hedging.
So, Doc, if I get from what you're saying, it means that you are practically not necessarily against the hedging, but you feel that proper accountability should have been given of previous hedging.
I don't want to prejudge they should tell us what happened the last time. And why, if they stop, they are going back. Then we can argue as to why they are hedging. Look, hedging, I call it, is like catch-up. Most people that hedge lose. We have a history with Anglo Gold. Hedging, it's a game that you end up in the long term to lose.
And is it still the same with quarterly hedging?
Can Mr. Bauer tell us what is the outcome of the previous policy of hedging? We need to know. The nation needs to know. Because by the time they were hedging, they were still changing prices. So what was the reason?
So you would say that it's not really economically prudent to hedge at this time?
I'm saying they have not demonstrated to us that economically is prudent yet. And it's on the basis of the first time.
Right. Let's now hear from Bauer then. Bauer, if you're there, I'll quickly give you the opportunity. If you can give us some narrative or anything about exactly how we fared the last time we hedged.
I will, speaking from the angle of the Ministry of Energy, I may not be able to tell you that, and I do know very clearly that there is a committee at the Ministry of Finance, the Risk Management Committee, I'm not too sure, who are responsible in assessing these things. I think that if you get them directly, you'll be able to tell. But as far as I know, as we speak now, we are not hedging on petroleum prices, the prices for crude in the international market. We are not hedging on that. There's no hedging policy on that particular one. So if you need an update of
what are you hedging? What are you hedging on then? What are you hedging on then?
As far as I know that from the crude oil point of view, I know that there's no hedging policy being implemented now. As far as I know. But I do know. Hold on, let me make a point. Let's finish my point. But I do know that
before you do, I just want to correct you. There was a policy on both production and import that was being implemented. And since you are the beneficiary ministry, it is not the Risk Management Committee that should tell us the impact. Your ministry should be able to tell us, we hedged X amount, we won or we gained. I mean, because, people ought to know. So when you say you are continuing.
But Honorable, this data, if you want this data, off the cuff, I will not be able to give you that. Yes, as a beneficiary, ministry, we could ask the Minister of Finance for the details of that. But off the cuff now, I will not be able to do that. And as far as we are ready to inform Ghanaians accurately. It is important that I defer that particular response.
So, Mr. Bauer, Dr. Akutose, I'll have you briefly hold. I need some clarification. Mr. Bauer, you mentioned that you, as far as petroleum is concerned, you are not hedging on that. I can't get it clear. Is it to mean that you are hedging something else?
The point I'm making is that the prices of the crude prices, you know, I think somewhere around 2010, 2009, 2010. I'm not too sure about the period. We hedged on the what they call it on the crude price. You remember that we were having these issues where the prices were going up, and at one point we needed to hedge on a particular figure. We did that over a period of time. We're always either renewing it or what they call it periodically. That is what I'm saying, that as we speak now, that has ceased.
Okay.
We don't do that again.
Is it on imports or production?
No, that was for the imports. I'm talking about the imports.
Imports, but there was also a policy on even the production. Do you recall?
But Honorable, I could say we are not talking about what about production. We are looking at...
You're dealing with imports.
No,
right,
we're dealing with imports.
Gentlemen, I'd like to streamline the discussion a bit. Bauer is saying something, and Honorable, if you want to react, I'll give you the chance to ask him counter questions.
Clarification.
Yeah. Right.
I'm just seeking clarification. So we are only talking about hedging on crude oil imports. And during the time that we were hedging, we were changing crude oil price. We were adjusting it. So the question is, what was the hedging for? If you hedge and you still adjust. And this is why I needed some evidence on the outcome. But if it doesn't have it, that's okay.
All right. So, Dr. Antonio Akutose, what would you have suggested that government does under the circumstances, considering the huge debt that is outstanding to the bulk oil?
I don't know what the MPA is doing in terms of the adjustment policy. You know, when the minister did the budget, remember they put in a subsidy of 50 million. I don't know what it was for. Then now, the subsidy, when he revised the budget, is gone to 618. So the question I've been asking is this a subsidy on what? Is it because, you know, there's a controversy about how much they owe the BDCs. And the only logic I can see is that the BDCs are pushing for this policy because of what they claim to be forex losses. But government does not work for the BDCs. The question is, how is it going to help Ghanaians? So this controversy about the BDCs may be what is urging government to go that way. I don't know. That's why I wanted more clarification.
Right.
Because clearly, they claim that government owes them 1.3 billion. Government says it is less. And so the issue has been, who has to pay for what? The BDCs want government to pay for the forex losses. They are private people. How can we hedge for private people? That is the difficulty I have. Private people take the risk, and the risk, high risk comes with high reward. If they lose, they lose. But government cannot. This is the issue we raised last time, that government should not be hedging for the sake of private sector people. If they are in the market, they ought to be able to do their own risk analysis. Government should get out of that business.
Right, Dr. Antonio Akutose, we are grateful for your time. Mr. Bauer, I'll have you to respond quickly to that. I mean, the Deputy Minister has said that the introduction of the hedging will prevent forex exchange losses. I mean, how is this possible? And why would they, like Dr. Antonio Akutose said, why will government hedge for private people?
I am just stating very clearly that what we are hedging on is on the price. We are not hedging on the forex, what do you call it, losses. That's not what we are hedging on. We are hedging on the the price.
But the Deputy Minister said the hedging is to prevent the forex losses. How does it prevent the forex losses?
What is your source of information on that, please?
Well, I mean, he granted an interview to the Daily Graphic.
Yes, the Daily Graphic, and that's what I'm saying, that as far as I know, if it is the reportage on the Daily Graphic, it was on the volatility of the the crude prices in the international market.
So what's in this for Ghanaians, really? I must know.
Excuse me?
What's in this for Ghanaians, the decision?
All that is in this for Ghanaians is this, that we want to have some level of stability in terms of the petroleum prices at our pump stations, such that Ghanaians can plan their energy costs. particularly for whether it is for industrial purposes or for domestic use. At least we should have some level of stability for businesses equally to also plan. So that is what it is for. Because you don't want to get up every morning, you get up and only to realize that the prices of, say, a particular petroleum product have changed. And on the strength of that, you need to revise your figures for whether it is a business or whether it is for running your home. So that's exactly what we want to give them some level of certainty, some level of consistency in terms of pricing for them to be able to plan.
Right. Thank you very much, Edward Bauer, Public Relations Officer of the Energy Commission. We're also joined on the other telephone line by Hakeem. Hakeem is Energy Policy Analyst. I'm not sure I got your title right. Hakeem, good evening. Thanks for joining us.
Good evening, sir.
So, I mean, we've had extensive discussion over this decision to hedge, and Bauer has made his point, and Dr. Antonia Kotose has questioned the rationale behind the hedging and all. What's your take on the decision to hedge?
Yes, I think the argument here is that when you hedge your oil to the international market prices, probably you'll be able to attain some level of stability in the domestic economy as far as fuel prices are concerned.
And this is good?
And yeah, to some extent, that looking at the fact that the dollar is, the prices are quoted in the dollar, and the fact that the international oil market prices are relatively stable currently, and also the fact that the dollar is quite resilient and stronger than the CD when it comes to inflationary tendencies and issues of depreciation.
But Hakeem, let me pause you there. I mean, this has been the contention that international prices have been relatively stable, so there is the question of whether it's wise or prudent to go ahead and hedge when it is the CD which is falling. The CD is falling against the...
Yes, this is momentarily it's a good decision, but when you going forward, there's likely to be volatility in the international prices. And so a developing country like Ghana, when you hedge your oil prices against the international market prices, then you will not be able to contain the shocks in terms of international oil price shocks and hikes.
Right. Hakeem, I'm afraid that this is all time will allow us. We're extremely out of time, and we thank you that you could join us. My name is Stephen Enti. That's where we draw the curtains for today's big story. We'll be back with an interactive segment. Stay with us.